The U.S. came close to a debt default just a few weeks ago before a last-minute deal between lawmakers and the Biden administration. Our next guest wants to change the way the country deals with the debt ceiling. He helped introduce the Debt Ceiling Reform Act late last week. Joining us now, Pennsylvania Democratic Congressman Brendan Boyle, ranking member of the Budget Committee. Congressman, we're going to definitely talk about that in just a second, but sometimes the real world intercedes, and you have some other things. I saw you down at the site of the tanker fire and the collapse in Philly. If you could just update us on that. And it is staggering how much East Coast commerce goes through Philadelphia on the way south. It would be good to get this done quickly. By coincidence, there's a piece in the Journal, How to Rebuild Fast. So it was done in California in 26 days after a similar tanker fire, as opposed to other places where it's taken 6 months or longer based on how you approach it. What do you expect to happen here?
Well, first, and thank you for bringing this up. It's just an awful event. It happens to be right in my district, which is basically, as you mentioned, smack dab in the middle of the Northeast Corridor. More people live within a 50-mile radius of this accident than any other similar 50-mile radius in the country. So we need this repaired, not just for Philadelphia and southeastern Pennsylvania, but really from as far north as New York and beyond, and as far south as Washington, D.C. I am confident, though, in speaking to the White House and Secretary Buttigieg and our state's governor and others from early Sunday morning on, that every sort of resource will be brought to bear in order to solve this as quickly as possible. In Atlanta, when they lost part of their interstate, they were able to solve it within a couple months. I'm hoping that in Philadelphia we'll be able to actually beat that.
This is in the op-ed pages of the Wall Street Journal from John Fund, and I'll admit that to you. And I know you're a Democrat. You mentioned Secretary Buttigieg, but when it happened in California, protracted public hearings, environmental impact reports, procedural hurdles, all suspended, while President Clinton refused to suspend the Davis-Bacon Act, and you know what that is. Governor Pete Wilson went ahead and suspended that and then added incentives to get it done. Do you expect that something similar here, or will there be all the red tape and all of the things that cause delays? What would you urge to happen in this case, Congressman?
Well, so there are two things about this. The first is this isn't, sincerely, this is not a time for ideology or partisanship. I just want whatever will get it done as quickly as possible.
It's either 6 months or 26 days.
Excuse me. Let me finish my answer, Joe. There's already legislation on the books for a situation just like this that expedites matters. The second point is I-95 is a series of bridges throughout Philadelphia. It is already being reconstructed in different parts. So ironically, there was already a contractor on site. So when I went yesterday to tour it, the contractor who happens to be working just further up on I-95 is the one who is doing the demolition work right now. So I am confident that we will not see any unnecessary delays. And if there are, I will be pushing to remove them. I am one of the people who takes this almost daily. I understand that for my constituents and for people in our area, we need this rebuilt as soon as possible.
Very good. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about. And it's you. And it is Senator Durbin on the Senate side. No Republicans, but it's an idea that's been proposed by Leader McConnell of Kentucky to do something similar to this. Can you go into what the mechanism and why we would want to do this?
So the basic mechanism is how the 2011 impasse was resolved. And that is allow the Treasury Secretary to initiate the raising of the debt ceiling. Congress would have to vote to disapprove it in order to stop it. Absent any congressional action, some say Congress is pretty good at doing nothing. So if Congress were to do nothing, then the increase in the debt ceiling would take effect. What I'm attempting to do is to take it out of the sort of normal political food fight, still reserve a certain power for Congress, but make sure we avoid any possibility of an accidental default in the future, which, frankly, we came a lot closer this time around than people realize.
Yeah. People wonder what the point is in the first place of a debt ceiling. I can argue either side, I think. But once you've you know, you go through elections, one or the other party wins majority, they legislate the way that they see fit, and then, you know, depending on what happens, you have to pay those bills. So I can understand why you wouldn't even want this. On the other hand, sometimes as a last resort, it's the only way maybe to put a governor on what one or the other party is doing unilaterally. I mean, after it's all said and done, do you wish there hadn't been any of the things that President Biden pushed so hard for in the bipartisan agreement? Do you wish none of that was there?
Yeah.
Do you still wish it was a clean debt raise with none of the stuff that it was?
So those are So Joe, those are two separate issues. I voted, by the way, just to be clear. I was one of a large bipartisan majority of Democrats and Republicans who voted for the ultimate agreement. I think all we did in the end was risk default while passing what was ultimately a budget agreement that we probably would have reached by September 30th anyway. I always said I was willing to negotiate about future spending. That's what ended up happening. But, you know, looking forward now, the question is, do we really want to keep playing fire in this way? Do we really want to risk default year after year? We're going to be right back in this situation in under 2 years from now unless we change or reform the debt ceiling process. I just think that's nuts. I think there is a way that we can have a sober conversation about what the size of our national debt should be, but we can do that without taking the full economy hostage.